Hi everyone, this is Lynn and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. As you could see, today I am creating a really simple Happy Meal card with a tiny bit of magic. Or at least that was what I was attempting to add to this card. So first of all, I die cut this mini slimline rectangle using the Birthday Star Mini Slimline. A gorgeous basic that is really handy if you love mini slimlines. Now you have 3 rectangles, and I think if I would remake this card, maybe I would take the second largest and then die cut this one out of some pattern paper that would match with my coloring. So definitely, if you want to make a similar card, think a bit outside of the box. Sometimes I only get these ideas while I'm doing the voiceover, because all of a sudden you rewatch the creation and there are so many new ideas popping inside of your head. So definitely see whatever you like. If you love pattern paper and mixing and matching, then definitely try to do so, because it's really fun to have a lovely border with some gorgeous colors in it. Now I stamped the sentiment in black, and then I stamped the fairy in a gray, really light ink. It's just a guideline, the fairy. Later on I will stamp the fairy in black ink, color it in, die cut it, and just add it on top. But this way I could see how this swirly line could evolve without being covered by the fairy later on. So my intention here was sort of to draw in where the fairy flew in, or just think about if you see a fairy. Well, if I would see one in real life, I would be really happy. But just basing myself on some films like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell there, normally when a fairy is flying, you have some sort of glitter dust that is just floating behind them wherever they went. And in this case, I thought, well, maybe I can just do that with a color and just bring a pop of color this way on top of my card. Now, I'm not an expert here, and getting outside of my comfort zone with Copics is definitely something that I'm trying to do during 2022. So therefore, I tried this once to have some sort of a swirly line that was with the Abracadabra stamp set from My Favorite Things, and I used purples. And in this case, I thought, well, maybe just do a really light, bright blue color combination that you love and just add that. And then later on, I will also use this combination on the fairy to just have everything sort of matching with each other, which I really like doing, and which also helps with the idea of a clean and simple card. Although you might add more, or you might add lots of details later on, reusing colors is something that I tend to do quite often in my card designs. So as you can see, I started with my darkest color, I drew in those lines, I tried to make it curvy and in the curves to go a bit bigger, and then I just added lighter markers around that darker area. Now something that I thought of doing was to add some dots all around, but as you can see, this swirly line that I added isn't that big, and sometimes, well, I like doing that with a white jelly roll pen, but as I'm going to leave this card quite white as well to keep it simple and to really let that color pop out of the card, I thought, well, why don't I use the Egg Hunt stencil from Crafty Meraki. There are some different designs to add on top of an egg if you want to for Easter, but you can definitely also use them as a guideline. Now normally stencils aren't really made for Copics, as you can go underneath the stencil really easy with your markers. Also Copics, alcohol based, they tend to go wherever they want to go if it's about a small area. So I went really careful, and from time to time I had to fix it later on to really get that star shining. But I'm not really good in hand drawing things myself, so therefore this stencil already was a help for me personally, and I think it was a nice way to use this. Now if you are scared about doing this with Copics, as it is not really made for it, you can also find an ink that matches with the color that you used in your background or in your swirl if you want to recreate this in a way, and just mask off all of the stars around that one star that you need and use your ink to add those stars details. That's definitely an option. Now I took this lovely fairy from the Born to Sparkle, and as I said previously, I just stamped it out using black ink as well, and now I'm going to color this one in. For the wings, I'm using exactly the same markers as I used for that burst of color in the background. And then I will later on use some yellows and oranges to help get that dress colored in, and then just some skin tones, some hair tones. So really simple coloring here. I'm only featuring one image, but you can definitely feature more if you want to. Also something cute in this case is doing another kind of swirl, not where she flew, but just where the wand is. You can do some sort of a magic swirl coming outside of our wand as well. And then your swirl will be in a different place on your card, but it will be as gorgeous as this one that you saw. Now here for the dress, I'm using some yellows and some orange colors. I'm matching them with each other. Sometimes when you only have yellow markers, I think it's really hard to somehow do a bit of dramatic ink blending with your markers. So that's why I like to add as my darkest markers some yellow reds to help me with that. And then just go back and forth. The paper that I use is Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper, which is really Copic friendly or any alcohol marker friendly. It allows you to add lots of details, lots of layers if you need to. In my case, most often I need 2 layers at least, but from time to time I need more, and that's just fine. You just keep adding. So normally I start with the hardest part, which for me are the skin tones and the hair. Now in this case I didn't, because I already grabbed those blue markers for the background, and so I just continue with that and saw wherever I needed to go with other markers. I just took them on the go and didn't figure it out ahead of time. This skin tone combination is one that I grab to every time. There are definitely different skin tones, but we all have that marker combination that works the best for us, so definitely take whatever you have that you prefer. I think it's really cute. I'm also going to just brown hair because the dress and the wings were really colorful, but I saw some design team members really use lovely bright colors in the hair, and it's really fun to do as well. So definitely step outside of your comfort zone if you want to create red hair, blue hair, purple, rainbow hair even. It's a fairy, so she can have any hair you want. So that's definitely a nice idea as well. I just try to keep it as simple as possible here and not to distract too much, as that is sort of my style. But I would love to see more fairies with colorful hair on Instagram and other social media, because it really brightens your day. So here for the hair, I sort of try to establish myself where the hairline was, and then just flick from there upwards and downwards and just switch between my markers. If later on you're interested in the Copic combos, there is my blog post where they are all listed for each part of the image. It's really easy to go back to. Of course, you can rewatch the video or write the combinations down as I'm showing them while coloring. So once I was happy with coloring, I took the matching dies, laid it on top, and die cut this fairy out, and then we are almost there. So I'm going to add this fairy using some thin foam squares, and as I said previously, the fairy that I stamped on top of my panel was a guideline to help me with my background. But now I will make sure that I have a fairy exactly on top of that guide, so that no one will see that it was previously stamped on top of my panel. But it's something that is really handy if you want to create a background ahead of time and you don't know exactly where it's going to be. This way you're sure. I'm going to add some white jelly roll details, but as I said previously, sometimes when you go outside of your color burst that you added, it's not that visible. So therefore I'm glad that I already added those stars, because it really adds something. You go a bit outside of that burst and it gives so much more to the magic that you drew on top of your background. Now you can stop here. You could also stop before adding the stars. I'm going to add this panel on top of a card base, but then I decided that I was going to add still a little bit more. It's still a clean and simple card, so I don't want to disrupt this idea and what I have already, but I'm going to add some stickles here on the wings, not completely covering them, but just using those guidelines on the wings to help me, making sure that it's not on top of the arm, and just a bit going everywhere. But really I'm not covering it completely, because sometimes if there is a bit too much liquid then it all curls up and I don't want that. So just lightly adding stickles. And then I decided to add a few more stars, not using stencil, but I'm using these clear iridescent itty bitty stars from Little Things from Lucy's Cards. It has been a while since I used them, but I thought in this case, as I already used stars and the iridescent vibe here was only going to help with the design and not distract, since it's iridescent clear. So it is not going to draw your eyes, but it's also helping the magic. Now I thought about adding a few on the left side of the fairy, but then reviewing everything and placement, I just thought that this was a bit, well, those three were getting lost in the wide area. But those others, I thought they really added something. You don't need to add them, but I really like how this turned out and how it helps with the magic. So that is my clean and simple card for today. Many ways to recreate this, to make this your own. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you are inspired to get crafting with the Born to Sparkle or other stamp sets. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get more Crafty Meraki inspiration from the whole design team. Thank you so much, and I'll be back soon. Bye!